Hi everyone, I am here to tell you all what are the features and the improvements we have added in our latest Bolt BI 5.2 release. So in this session, we are going to see specifically on the topics like how to set some configuration policies related to the passwords or to log the accounts, and how can we set some configurations regarding the cross-origin policies because it will help you to secure your site. And also along with this, we are going to see some more improvements we added on the settings section and especially on the data source side. And along with this, we are going to see the items related to the embedding and the REST API. So first of all, let's take a look on the first section, which is account and password. So we help you to make some configuration policy based on your organization policy. Let me show you the screen. So let me go on to the manage profile. So this will be your landing page. So go to the manage sites to make some configuration policy for your tenant. So click on profile and you will be allowed to move on to the manage sites. And here you can find the section called the settings. Now move on to the security tab. And here it will allow you to make some configurations regarding the policies. So before we make the changes here, let me show you by default how the Bolbay configurations was set. So let's move on to the user section from the home page itself. And let me show you how it is by default. So if I try to add a user and when we set some password, by default, Bolbay will show you some policies to make your stronger password. So if you want to customize these password policy based on your organization, because you may not need uppercase or the numeric to be added into your passwords while creating by your users. So if you want to customize them, yes, Bolbay allow you to make the changes in our latest release. Now let me show you that. So if you want to increase the password length, and I don't want to use the uppercase and a number to be added into while creating the passwords. So now let me make these changes and save these settings. And now let's the page here. And now we can see the changes. Now, if you try to add user, it will show you whatever the policies you have configured for the user admin panel. So this is one of the improvement we have added on the password related policies. And the second item we done was to log the user account. So this scenario will help you in case if your user tries to log into your instance, I mean the Boltway application, and if they're trying to log with incorrect password for multiple times, for example, say 5 times. So now if they're trying to make it, then the account will be automatically logged out. So once made, then the admin alone will have the access to release the account. Now let me show you how it works. So enable the user account lockout and save the changes. Now let me try with a different tenant here. So I'm trying with incorrect password. Now it shows an error message that your account has been locked because you have tried with incorrect password within multiple attempts. So now if the same user needs to work with the same instance, then the user account needs to be released by admin. So you can make the changes through the user section. And now admin can see whatever the user's account has been locked. Now let me unrelease the user account. So once I unlocked, now the user can log in with the proper password. So this is how you can make use of the options to restrict your user to go with the multiple incorrect passwords. So these are the options we provided for the account related and the password related policies. Now let's go on to the next section, which is cross origin policy. So when we go with the cross origin policy, in case if multiple resources or a different domain tries to access your resource, and if you're not sure whether it is safer or not, then you can set some policies for your tenant and the domain so that your users cannot share the resources outside of your site so that it will be more secured. So that's the option we provided for the cross origin policy. So now let's see what are the improvements we done related to the cross origin. The first one is to avoid your server side request forgery attacks. So how can you do that? Now let's move on to the dashboard page. And let's go on to the settings tab again. And in this page, we have another section which is configuration. And now move on to the known domains.json file. And here you can mention what are the domain needs to be denied if they try to access, or if you're sharing a resource from your tenant to the other domains. So you can restrict them. Now let me go with some option. And you need to enable this property as true. And once done, save the changes. Now we can see, is it possible to share the dashboard outside your tenant? And now if I try to make any actions, not only me, if any users tries to do, and the dashboards will not be published across because you have added such type of domain as a restricted one. So the dashboards will not be moved out of your resources. So this is one of the feature we have added when you come across the cross origin policies. And the next item is regarding customizing the course headers. Because when you set up the course policies, you may have specific options to go with. For example, now let's go on to the settings tab. And here we have a separate section called security, where you can customize the course policy based on your needs. So for example, I want to allow a specific domain or the origins to access my resource and what type of methods they can access along with the headers, or if you want to expose the headers to the users when they try to access your resource. So you can mention all those options here, and whatever the options you have mentioned, through that you can make your resource little safer. And also you can set some time periods for making a pre-flight request. So once made, you can customize the course policies for your tenant. So this is the customization for the course headers. And the next improvement we added in the origin policies is to trigger a webhook when you're sending a data alerts. So as of now, we allow you to make these schedulers to the email options or to upload into FTP destinations. But in case if you want to trigger a webhook or a different source, then even you can make a data alerts to a webhook. Now let me show you first of all how to create a webhook, and then let's go on to the scheduler part. So in the same page, you can see the integration section, which helps you to know like what all are the webhooks you have created. So you can manage them if you want to activate or if you want to deactivate or if you want to modify, you can make all your actions here. So to create a webhook, go to the profile page, and there we have a separate section called webhooks. Now we can add a webhook here. And if you want, you can provide the descriptions here, and you need to choose the event. So basically, Bolt2Pay allows you to send the alerts based on two criteria. The first one is like a time driven, which is sending the notifications based on the time intervals. For example, like I want to know about the status of my dashboard at the end of every week or at the end of the every month. So in that scenario, you can go with the time driven dashboard. And the second type is like alert driven, which will work based on the conditions of your dashboard. For example, like whenever my revenue reaches $30,000, then I need to be notified like your profit reaches a specific value. So such type of based on your conditions of your dashboard, you can send the email alerts. So now I'm going with the option with the time driven option. And the next way is to input your destination URL. So here you need to provide the webhook URL. Now let me get the webhook URL. And you can choose the content type here. As of now, I'm choosing a JSON, and we have various different ways as well. And the next option is to select the authentication or the signing process, because when you trigger a webhook, you may have authentication process, or if you want to add secret keys to make it little safer. So you can make all those configurations here. And at the last, we have the option to choose like what are the values you need to pass. So as of now, I'm going with a dashboard name and the scheduler name. So you can choose a multiple values to send the details to the webhook when it is triggered. So I'm choosing dashboard name and the scheduler name. Let's save the webhook, and you can manage all the webhooks as I said earlier here. Now let's go on to the scheduler. and create new scheduler. Either you can create the scheduler from here, or else even you can go with the dashboard itself. So even you can create from here. Let me provide some name. And these are the options generally we provide for the normal scheduler. So here we provide you to make a webhook option. So just select that and choose to you which webhook you need to trigger. So let me choose a webinar webhook here and click on schedule. So now let's see the changes in the scheduler tab. So I have created a scheduler and now let me make it run. And we can see the changes in this site. Once triggered, it will be listed in this page and we can see like whatever the details we sent will be shown in the body tag. Now we can see the changes here. So whatever the options I have chosen under the payload option. So I have chosen dashboard name and the scheduler name. So this is how you can trigger a webhook for sending the data alerts. So these are the options. I mean, these are the enhancements we have added on the cross origin policies. And let's move on to the next section regarding the data store and the settings option. So previously, I mean, in our earlier releases, we have included PostgreSQL and Microsoft SQL as intermediate data store. So for that, you can go on to the manage sites and let me show you a sites page. So here, let me go with different site. So now you are allowed to choose even MySQL as an intermediate data store. So not only for creating the site, even if you want to make changes with the existing tenant. So for that, you can go to the settings tab and click on data store. There you can see whatever the data store you have configured already for the tenant. So if you want to swap it, even you can swap them using this drop down. So this is the data store option. And also along with this, we have enhanced some more options in the settings page itself. For example, let's see about the connectors page. So here we have added a new connector into the Bolt BI data source section. So once you upgrade it, you will be finding whatever the new connectors we have added will be listed in this page. But by default, it will be in the hidden state. So you can enable the connectors so that you can make use of these connectors for designing your dashboard. So we have added ClickHouse and Bolt Desk as new data source in Bolt BI in our latest release. So once done, even you can manage them like whatever the connectors you need to be show on your design or canvas or whatever the data source needs to be hidden. You can control all those options in this connectors page and you can save this settings. So once done, whatever the data source you have enabled will be listed onto the page. And the next improvement we done on the widget section is to add the custom connect widgets, because in our previous releases, we show a template format and you need to provide some options and you need to replace it into the installed locations. But now we make we make it easier to work with the custom widgets. So you can upload whatever the files you have created through the add new widget option. Now let me add a custom widget here. So we need the extension as BICW, which is Bold BI Custom Widgets. Now you can upload the custom widget here and you can see whatever the custom widgets you have added at the end of the page. And even if you want to edit it again or if you want to delete the widgets, you can manage all the actions here. Now let me save this and you can see this custom connector in the designer panel. Even let me show you the difference. So now you can see the custom widget which we added into the panel and you can make use of this widget for designing your dashboards. So this is how we provided the option to control or to manage or to upload the custom widgets. And not only for the custom widgets, now we have provided the support to control the existing widgets as well. For example, I don't want the relationship widgets or I don't want the radar polar specifically for the dashboards designing. So you can control them by enabling or disabling the options. So these are the options we have added in our settings page. And now let's get into the data source and the designer. So as of now, we have seen whatever the improvements we have done on the settings level. Either it may be for the tenants or it may be for the widgets or it may be for the connectors. Now we are getting deeper into the data source and the designing section. So now let's get into the dashboard page. And once you created the dashboard, at the right side, you can see the data source icon, which shows what all are the connectors we have here. And now you can see the ClickHouse connector and the Bolt Desk, which we added newly into our Bolt BI data sources collection. And not only with the new data source, we also improved Google Bigquery, which helps you to connect with your service account. So in our previous releases, we allowed you to connect Google BigQuery using O authentication alone. But now we have enhanced a little bit more to connect with your service account. So this is one more improvement on the data sources. And not only connecting the data source here, we also provided you a support to create the data source through programmatical way. For example, I want to connect a data source in the web mode, but I don't find the connector here. But I can create it through programmatical way. Yes, it is possible in Bolt BI. Let me show you the format here. So this is the major request details required for creating a connection. Now let me show you this with the Postman. So this is the REST API, I mean the request URL, and you can change your port number based on your needs. And you need to upload using the post method. So this is the first step. And the second step is to provide the access token. So choose the bearer token method and you need to provide the access token here. Now, where to generate the access token? So you can get the access token from the designer canvas itself. Just right click on the designer, go to the view page source, and there you can get the access token. Now just let me copy this. And just replace it into the token session. This is the second step. And the third step is to pass whatever the details we need for specifically for the web data source. So I will show you like what is the JSON format and what are the fields to pass for the specific key fields once I shown you this part. So I have passed with the default values here and we supported with the live connection as of now. And before sending the request, ensure whether you have added a proper content type to the request. And once verified, now let's click on send. Now we get the response. So once you get the status as successful, now we can see the changes in our page itself. So now let's go to the data sources and you can see the latest data source that we added through Postman. So in this release, we allow you to create the data source through programmatical way. And if you want to go with the other options, for example, like I want to add some more expressions or joiners, for this data source. So you can edit the data source and go ahead with the process. Or if you want to make use of this data source for creating the dashboard, yeah, you can go ahead and design the dashboard using this data source. So this is one more improvement we have added in the data source panel. Now let me show you the JSON format. So this is the JSON format while you're sending the request through the programmatical way. And also I have added the details in the table format, which shows what are the property names and what are the values you need to pass and is it mandatory or not. So we have shared the details here. So these are the options in the overlayer of data source. Now we are going to get deep into the data source. For example, once I added the data source, okay, if I want to make changes on the joiners or expressions, is there any improvements on that? Yes, we have added improvements on that as well. So for that, let me add an existing data source. So now we can edit the data source here. So previously in our releases, we allow you to join the tables using the column that you have in the tables or views or in the stored procedures, whatever you have. But now we allow you to join the tables using an expression column. So let me show you what type of data I have here. So I have some data. Now let me make it an expression column. I'm just going with a simple condition. And now let me save this expression. Okay. Now let's see the changes in the data preview panel. So I have created an expression. Now, if I want to join another sheet or another table based on your data source, you can make use of this expression column. Now let me choose this expression and you can join the table using that expression column. So this is how you can make use of this feature to join another table using the expression column. And one more options we have, I mean, along with this feature, we also enhanced new expressions to calculate the sum of from a distinct values. In case if you want to calculate average or sum for only the distinct values, yeah, now we have added an expression for that. Now let's take a look onto it. Just go with the option sum distinct and let me choose unit price. And also we have supported for the average as well. So now we have added two expressions and you can see the differences in the data preview. So these are the improvements we have done on the data preparation layer. Now, how can I see these values in the designer part? Now let's move on to that section. So save this data source. And now let's go with a simple grid. So you can find whatever the expressions you have added under the measures or the dimensions based on the data types. So you can just drag and drop the values here and you can make use of those distinct columns. So these are the improvements we have added specifically on the expression part. And the next part we are going to see some improvements on the grid because now we are taking a look on grid. So what are the improvements we have added in the grid in science? So if you want to see the summary for your records, now like instead of distinct, let me go with some default columns to show a better values. So now we have added new features called show raw data and enable summary row. So these are the two features which helps you to show little bit a deeper way. For example, I want to see some summary for the specific column. So for region, I'm showing like count. And for the country, let me see the summary of a distinct count, for example. And for the unit price, if you want, you can go with the all columns or you can choose either one of the columns. It's not mandatory to go all with the columns. So now let me update here and you can see the summary option in the widget. So if you don't want, you can disable this property even once you updated the values. And the second feature we have is the show raw data. So which helps you to show the like whatever the data you have in the grid widget, even if you applied any aggregations like sum or average or distinct, whatever the aggregations if you applied, it will not be counted into the expressions and it will be automatically eliminated and it will show the real raw data in the widgets. So this is how the raw widget works. Now let me show you the difference by disabling this feature. So this is the difference of raw data and the summary rows. And the next improvement we done on the widgets level is adding a grid and the KPI cards to act as a listener in the period over period. So in our previous releases, we made period over period with the other widgets like charts. But now we have added grid and KPI cards to act as a listener for the period over period. So now let's go with the period over period widget where you can track like the values between two different time durations. So now let me assign some data here. And also let me show with the KPI cards as well. So let me go with unit price. Okay. So by default, other filters will be acting as a listener to the master widget, but only for the period over period, we need to make it manually. So let me make action through manual option. And once updated, we can see the differences in the grid. So this is how the grid and the KPI card works based on the period over period time duration that you have chosen on the widget. So this is the improvement for the grid and the KPI cards. And the next interaction we have is with the tabbed widgets. So Bolt BI allows you to make with a tabbed widget. Let me show you that. So let's have default widgets like pie chart. And let me have like region with unit price. And let's go ahead and creating the another tab, which shows donut chart. And for this, let me have like item type and unit sold. And let me go with another tab as well, where we can see shape maps, for example. And let me have units sold here. Now let's have some list box to make the interaction with the widgets. I think let me add some more tiles here. And you can have any values here. Not specifically like it must be a numeric column or it must be any related values to the widgets. No, there is no limitation such type of actions. So this will actually work based on the index of your tab. So for that, first of all, we need to enable the interlinking option. So once enabled, you can choose which tab widget need to access because you may have multiple tab widgets here. And here you can see two options. The first one is default, which works based on the index. And the custom will work based on the like whatever the values you have chosen by default, it will be always pointing to the same tab. Now let's see the difference. So first let it make as default. Now the values will work based on the index of the list value. For example, if I'm choosing like second value, then automatically the second index of tab will be chosen. If you're going with the third, then it will choose automatically with the third option. So there may be a scenario like, for example, I have only three tabs and I have like multiple values in the list box. So what will happen if I choose, for example, like as of now, I'm in like first tab. But by default, I'm choosing the sixth index or the seventh index. So what will happen? So it will show you whatever the last index of the tab you have, it will be automatically displayed. So this is how the default action works. So based on the index of the value will be chosen on the tab. And the next option is the custom. So let me show you how it works. So go to the assign data. Sorry, on this table. And here you can choose custom and it will ask you like which tab needs to be pointed out by default. Now let me make it like the second tab. So if user chooses any value, it may be any value or any index of the values. So it will automatically point out only to the second index. For example, if I have like tab one and I'm going with any value, it will automatically point out to the same index of the tab. So this is the improvement we have done in the tabbed widgets. And the next improvement we have added on the performance level. For example, let me show you here. So once you've done your designing process, then obviously we will be going on publishing the dashboard. So once you published, then the dashboards will be looking like on a viewer page. Let me show you here. So the dashboards will be listed and you can click on the page and it will show you in the dashboard viewer mode. So you can see here, initially it's taking a few seconds or sometimes it may be minutes to load the data into the dashboards. And if you try to refresh the dashboard, it will happen on the same way. So it will take some few minutes to calculate the values. Now we have improved this performance load on the widgets by data catch option. Now let me show you how it works. So let's edit the dashboard. And we have introduced new option on the toolbar, which is the data catch. So by default, it will be in the off status. You can enable it and set some time period. So as of now, I'm setting like a 30 minutes. Let's apply and publish the dashboard. So once you made the data catch enabled, then at the initial stage alone, the dashboard will be taking like a couple of seconds or minutes to load. And once it's loaded, the data, whatever the results available on the widgets will be automatically data catched for the specific time period which you set on the option. So now you can see the difference. If I try to refresh the dashboard, it will not take much time to load as the data will be coming from the data cache. And even I can refresh the dashboard again. So this is how the data cache works. And here you may have one more query like, then how the latest records will be coming over. Okay, in this scenario, so I have set like 30 minutes for the expiration time. So once the 30 minutes expired, or if you want to fetch your latest records because your data source may be refreshed frequently for every 5 to 10 minutes, in that scenario, if you want to recalculate the values with the latest records, then we are providing the option to refresh the dashboard from the context menu. So you can click on the refresh here and now the dashboard will calculate the aggregations or whatever the expressions you have involved for the widget using your latest records from your data store. And once done, it will catch the results for the next 30 minutes. So this is how you can improve the performance of your dashboard because multiple users may use the same dashboard at a time. So at that time, the dashboard data will be cached and it will load little faster. So we have done an improvements on loading the dashboard. So these are the enhancements and the improvements we have done on the data source and the designer perspective. Now let's go on to the next section, which is the embedding part. So when embedding comes into the picture, we provide you to embed the dashboards through iframe in the edit mode. In our previous releases, you can see that we provided iframe mode, which helps you to embed the entire dashboard viewer. So it will be working in a viewer mode alone. But now we allow you to embed the dashboards in edit mode. So for that, let's go on to the dashboard page and get the embed code. So here you can choose either it needs to be viewer or edit options, and whatever the single sign on, in case if you are using your own authentications, then you can choose your authentication over here. But as of now, I'm going with the normal flow. So just copy this iframe tag and place it in any applications. For example, let me choose here. Okay. Now let's save this. Now you can see that through the iframe, you can embed the designer canvas of your dashboards. So it will be opening in the edit mode. So not only for the dashboards, we do provide for the data source as well. So let's go on to the data sources and get embed code for the specific data source. So here also, if you want, you can go with the single sign-on. But as of now, I'm going with the default values. And now let's refresh the page. So this is how you can embed the data source designer layer. I mean, the data preparation layer in your applications through the iframe in the edit mode. So these are the improvements we have made on the embedding perspective. And the next enhancements we done is related to the REST API. So along with these actions are actually working in the user interface level. But sometimes you may expect to work with the REST API mode like in a programmatical way. So in that scenario, already BoldBay supports you to make some programmatical actions like creating a tenant or making the permissions or the setting of settings for the specific users or groups or some more actions through REST API. So along with those entities, we have also added new REST API support for checking the pinboard items or making the settings option for the email or the Azure Active Directory, or if you want to update the core settings, because now we have recently added the cross origin policy. So if you want to update these settings through REST API, now it's possible to do it. And not only for these options, we have added API for the embedding sections as well. So you can, while embedding the dashboard, you can hide or show the preview button, or if you want to publish the dashboard through REST API, yeah, it's possible. And also you can customize the toolbar options. So we have provided API support for the embedding perspective as well. So if you want to go through on all these improvements and the enhancements in our websites, so I have added the reference links here. So you can refer our help documentations and also the blog, which shows you each and every feature along with the GIF attached images. And also if you want to know about the roadmaps for the Bolbay product, you can go ahead with this reference links. So this is my presentation. Thanks everyone.